So hello everyone, welcome to this new video. So in our previous videos we have done with the first part of this first chapter of this module 5. Okay, that is all the parameters we have covered. So we are having the one simple portion here, one syllabus part that is very important, and one question is fixed from that. That is the interrelationship between the network parameters. That is all four parameters we are going to represent that in terms of other parameters. That is, I've told you that I'm going to take 4 different sessions for that. This is the first session of that. That is, in this session I'm going to discuss Z parameters in terms of other 3 parameters. That is Y, H and T parameter. That is the equations of all the Z parameters in terms of Y, H and T parameters. Okay. This is very important. One question would be fixed, that is they would be asking you convert Z parameters in terms of any other parameters. Okay, first is for Z parameters in terms of Y, H, T. Then in the second session I am going to discuss Y parameters in terms of all other 3, and so on for all the 4 parameters. Okay, so those who have not seen my previous videos of solved problems related to all these 4 parameters, those who have not seen it, please go and see it. So now without wasting much time, let us start. First is Z parameters in terms of other 3 parameters, that is Y, H and T parameters. One by one we are going to discuss. First things first, write the equations, set of equations for Z parameters, that is the dependent and independent variables. Write this equation here, okay, because these equations, by using these equations only we are going to solve. Okay, first thing is for Y parameters. Okay, Y parameters, okay, using Z parameter equations. For this, what? Write the equations of Y parameters now. That is, I1 is equal to Y11 V1 plus Y12 V2. I2 is equal to Y21 V1 plus Y22 V2. So keep this in mind. Before solving, I am going to tell you one small note, that is, whenever we want to represent Z parameters in terms of Y parameters, also Y parameters in terms of Z parameters, we have separate set of rules for that. We cannot be doing it directly by solving these 2 set of equations. Okay, rest all other combinations we are going to solve these 2 set of equations and get the answers. But for Z parameters in terms of Y and Y in terms of Z, we are going to use the Cramer's rule and solving the relationship. Okay, because directly we won't be obtaining the answers. Okay, so that's why we are going to apply Cramer's rule. Before that, try to represent this in matrix form. That is I1 by I2, sorry, I1 and I2. Then that is equal to, write all the parameters in one matrix, Y11, Y12, Y21, Y22, then one more set of matrix, that is V1, V2. Okay, after that apply Cramer's rule. Okay, so Cramer's rule we have studied in basic electronics, okay, in PUC. Those who don't remember it, that is, we should be considering one input voltage V1 that is equal to the determinant of the first input current. Along with that, we should be writing the second column's first value, that is Y12, and in the second, here we should be writing the second current, and we should be writing the value of Y22, that is this row. Okay, divided by the determinant of Y. What is the determinant of Y? It is represented as delta Y. Okay, what is delta Y? How to take the determinant, you know, right? We should be cross multiplying, right? That is Y11 into Y22 minus Y21 into Y12. Okay, so this is the value of delta Y. Okay, now V1 is equal to, so here we have determinant again. In order to find its determinant, cross multiply, that is I1 Y22 minus I2 Y12 divided by delta Y. Now what we can do is, V1 is equal to, split this denominator now, that is I1 Y22 by delta Y minus I2 Y12 by delta Y. Now what I am doing is, V1 is equal to, if you observe, we need y parameters in terms of z parameters, right? Sorry, z parameters in terms of y parameters. So now if you observe here, we have the equation v1, and if we want the values of z11 and z12 in terms of y parameters, that is what we should be doing is here v1, i1, i2. If you observe here v1, i1, i2, we have all three equations. Now what I am doing is I'm separately writing these parameters, y parameters, that is y22 by delta y into i1 minus y12 by delta y into i2. So now if you observe this equation carefully, so here in place of z11 what we have? Coefficient of i1 y22 by delta y, that is z11 is equal to y22 divided by delta y. So here we have z parameters in terms of y parameters, that is the value of z11 in terms of y parameters, that is z11 is equal to y22 by delta y. Similarly, what we have here, z12, its coefficient is i2's coefficient, right? The coefficient of i2 is minus y12 by delta y. So like this we got two of the z parameters, that is z11 and z12. Now apply same Cramer's rule. Now consider the V2 voltage. Okay, again the same thing. Apply Cramer rule for V2 is equal to determinant of. Now consider in the first column, consider the first what you have considered the currents, right? Now consider these two elements first, that is y11 and y21, and here you should be considering the currents now, that is i1 and i2 divided by again same thing delta y, that is equal to v2 is equal to, now again take the cross multiplication, i2 into y11 minus i1 into y21 divided delta y. So now I2, I am just splitting the denominators and writing separately the term, that is y11 by delta y, then minus I1 into, plus y1 into minus y21 by delta y. So here if you observe here, in the coefficient of I2 here is z22, right? So z22 is equal to y11 by delta y, and z21 is equal to minus y21 by delta y. So here we have found all four parameters, all four z parameters in terms of y parameters. See, all are in terms of y parameters, right? So like this the interrelationship works for z parameters in terms of y parameters. Okay, now first thing is done. Now the second term is z parameters in terms of h parameters now. Okay, so now this is very easy. Y parameters are done. Now again z parameters, all the values of z11, z12, z21, z22. Now we should be getting in terms of h parameters. So now let us see how we are getting. This is very easy. Just we should be solving the set of equations. Very easy. I am going to tell you how. First write the set of equations for h parameters. That is v1 is equal to h11 i1 plus h12 v2. Right. Then we have i2 is equal to h21 i1 plus h22 v2. Now here how to solve this is, name these two equations as equation 1 and 2. Okay, why I'll tell you. Now we need z parameter in terms of h parameter, right? So that if you observe the equations very carefully, this equation 2, if you consider, compare the second equation of z parameter and the second equation, equation 2. Which and all terms are common here? If you observe, V2, I2 are common, right? And one term is V2, I2 and I1 are common if you compare the second equation and the second equation like this. And if you compare the first equation, that is V1, I1 and I2 we have. But here first equation what we are having, V1, I1, V2. The all terms are not common. Okay, in this kind of problem, in this kind of direct solving using the equations, first step is compare all the which pair of equations have the same variables. Okay, check that. So here I told you, right, the second equation of z parameter and the second equation which I have written all are having same variables. That is I2 is there, I1 is there, also V2 is there. So that's why now what we can do is consider this equation 2. Okay, whichever equation has the same variables, consider that. Here we have equation 2 now. Equation 2 can be written as, how we can write this, since we have same pair of variables here, but here we are representing this in terms of z parameters. So in terms of z parameters we have V2 in one side, right? So here also I am bringing the V2 term in one side, that is H2 to V2 I am writing in one side, that is equal to I2. This you bring it to other side, that is minus H21 I1, right? So now divide this V2 for this whole term, that is I2 by H22 minus I1 H21 by H22. So we can simply write this as V2 is equal to, I am separately writing the coefficient, that is 1 by H22 into I2. Then we have minus H21 by H22 into I1. Okay. Now we can see that we have V2, I1 and I2. Just write the coefficient, that is this equation. Now you name this as equation 3 because this we need it further. Okay. Now what to do is, in coefficient of I2 here is Z22. So Z22, in place of Z22 what we have, 1 by H22. So one part is done. We have found Z22. Now next is Z21. So in place of Z21 what we have, minus H21 by H22. So two parts are done, that is Z21 and Z22 are found out. Now we are left with Z11 and Z12. Okay, so now how to solve that is very easy, nothing much to do. So we have got this equation, right? Now nothing much to do. So here we have written this as equation 3, right? This V2 is there, right? Here we have considered equation 2 and solved this for V2. We have considered this second equation, right, and solved this and got the answer V2. Now we should be substituting this value of V2 in the equation which we have not considered. That is, we have not considered equation 1 and solved, right? So substitute this value of V2 in equation 1. That is, put equation 3 in equation 1. Okay, and solve. That is, in this equation now substitute the value of V2 as this term. Okay. So V1 is equal to H11 I1 as it is, plus H12 into the value of V2 is what now? Write this I1 term first, that is minus H21 by H22 I1. Then what we have? Plus I2 by H22. Right? Now multiply this H12 to both this term, that is V1 is equal to H11 I1. Then we have minus sign, so minus H12 H21 divided by H22 I1. Okay. Then what we have? Plus plus plus, so plus H12 divided by H22 into I2. So group the before grouping here we have I1 term common here, right? So we should be grouping, take I1 common and group these two together. Okay, that is, do it at the next step. So V1 is equal to H11 minus H12 H21 divided by H22. This is not for the whole thing. Okay, this is only for this term here. Okay, keep it in mind. And I1 is taken common, plus H12 by H22 I2. Okay, so now solve inside this, that is V1 is equal to cross multiply. What we would be getting? H11 H22 minus H12 H21 the whole divided by H22 now into I1 plus H12 divided by H22 into I2. So if you observe this carefully, what is this term here? H11 H22 minus H12 H21, that is equal to delta H. Okay, delta H. So we can directly replace the numerator by delta H divided by H22 into I1 plus H12 by H22 into I2. Now compare the coefficients of V1 is equal to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2, right? So what our value of Z11 is now delta H by H22 and the value of Z12 is now H12 by H22. Okay, so now we have found all four values, that is Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22. That is, we have represented Z parameters in terms of H parameters now. Okay, so these two are done. We are left with only one parameter now, that is Z parameters in terms of T parameters or ABCD parameters. Okay, one and the same. Okay, first write the set of equations for ABCD parameters, that is V1 is equal to A V2 minus B I2, then I1 is equal to C V2 minus D I2. Name these as equation 1 and equation 2. Okay, so now again we should be checking for common variables, right, for Z parameters and T parameters. So if you observe here, again consider equation 2 here, I1 V2 I2. Here also we have I1 V2 and I2. So again we can see that this equation 2 and the second equation of Z parameters are having the same variables I1 V2 I2, I1 V2 I2. So now we should be considering equation 2 and solving. That is, equation 2 would be becoming, that is, we have here V2 in one side, right? So here in this equation, bring the V2 term to one side, that is CV2 you should be bringing it to one side. So what would be left with now? I1 and minus di2, if you bring it to other side, that would be plus di2, right? So now V2 is equal to 1 by C I1 plus d by C I2, right? So now what is the value of this? You name it as equation 3 now. So now if you compare this, V2 is equal to Z21 I1 and Z22 I2. So Z21 is equal to 1 by C, right? And Z22 is equal to D by C. 1 by C you can write it as 1 by T21, and this you can write it as T22 by T21. It is one and the same. Okay, first set of pair is done. Now whatever the value of V2 is there, which equation we have not considered, that is V1 equation, we should be substituting that in equation 1 here, that is in this equation. Substitute equation 3 in equation 1. What is equation 1? V1 is equal to A V2 minus BI2. That is, V1 is equal to A into the value of V2 is what? I1 by C, right? Plus DI2 by C, right? Minus BI2. So multiply A here, what would be getting? AI1 by C plus ADI2 by C minus BI2. So here we have I2 common, so V1 is A by C into I1, then plus AD by C minus B into I2, right? So now solve this. So V1 is equal to A by C I1, then plus, so take cross multiplication, AD minus BC the whole divided by C. AD minus BC the whole divided by C into I2. So now represent this in terms of T parameters now. So why? Because I am telling you why. So A can be written as T11, C can be written as T21 I1 plus A into D. So A is T11, D is T22, B is T12 and C is T21 divided by T21 I2. So now if you observe this carefully again, two like terms minus two unlike terms. Okay, whenever we have like terms minus unlike terms, that is always equal to delta T. Okay, but whenever we have minus here and plus here, that would be equal to minus delta T. Okay, keep it in mind. So here in this case it is delta T. So V1 is equal to, that is now again represent this in A by C, okay, one and the same, A by C I1, then plus, here now it is delta T divided by what is T21 C I2. Okay, so this is the equation here. Compare this, V1 is equal to Z11 I1, Z12 I2. So Z11 is equal to A by C and Z12 is equal to delta T by C. Okay, like this we have found all four values, Z11, Z12, Z21, Z22. Okay, and we have compared Z parameters in terms of Y, H and T parameters one by one. Okay, hope this is clear. I've solved it. So please go through it very carefully. So that's all in this session, guys. Like this video, and in the next session we are seeing Y parameters in terms of Z, H and T parameters. Okay, so that's all, guys. Thank you.